The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the twinkling of distant stars and the occasional flash of a passing ship. At the heart of this cosmic canvas stood the crown jewel of the Galactic Empire, the planet Cyrex. Its gleaming cities and towering spires reached towards the stars, a testament to the Empire's power and technological prowess. High above Cyrex, in the imperial palace that floated in orbit, Emperor Vexthor gazed out at his domain. His 7 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of his deep contemplation. The Emperor's scaled skin shimmered in the artificial light, and his long, bony fingers tapped rhythmically on the armrest of his crystalline throne. "Your Majesty," a voice called out, interrupting the Emperor's thoughts. "The High Council awaits your presence." Vexthor turned, his gaze falling upon General Kraz, his most trusted military advisor. The general's exoskeleton clicked as he bowed low, showing proper respect to the ruler of 1,000 worlds. "Very well," the Emperor said, his voice a low rumble. "Let us see what pressing matters demand our attention today." As they walked through the winding corridors of the palace, Vexthor couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire had stood unchallenged, its might unquestioned. They had conquered countless worlds, subjugated hundreds of species, and brought order to the chaos of the universe. The doors to the High Council chamber hissed open, revealing a circular room filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Representatives from a dozen different species sat around a holographic display, their chatter falling silent as the Emperor entered. "Report," Vexthor commanded as he took his seat at the head of the table. A slender, serpentine creature slithered forward. "Your Majesty," it began, its forked tongue flicking nervously. "We have received disturbing news from the outer reaches of the Empire." Vexthor's eyes narrowed. "Speak plainly, Counselor Sisith." "What news?" The holographic display flickered to life, showing a distant solar system on the fringes of imperial space. "Our long-range sensors have detected a large fleet approaching from this sector," Sith explained. "A fleet of unknown origin." Murmurs of concern rippled through the council chamber. Unknown fleets were rare in the Empire's territory. Most species capable of interstellar travel had long since been conquered or assimilated. "How large is this fleet?" General Kraz asked, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Sisith's tail coiled tightly around itself. "Preliminary scans suggest over 1,000 ships, possibly more." The council erupted in shocked exclamations. A fleet of that size hadn't been seen since the last Great War, millennia ago. Emperor Vexthor raised a hand, silencing the commotion. "And the origin of these ships?" he asked, his voice dangerously calm. The holographic display zoomed in, showing grainy images of the approaching vessels. They were sleek, their designs unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. But it was the markings on their hulls that caused a collective gasp from the council. It appears to be the humans, Your Majesty," Sith said, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, silence reigned in the chamber. Then, unexpectedly, Emperor Vexthor began to laugh. It started as a low chuckle, but quickly grew into a full-bodied roar of amusement. "The humans," he said between bouts of laughter. "Those primitive apes from that backwater planet. Impossible. The last time the Empire had encountered humans, they had been a fledgling species, barely capable of leaving their own planet. The Empire had dismissed them as inconsequential, not even worth the effort of conquering." "Your Majesty," General Kraz interjected, "perhaps we should not underestimate." "Nonsense," Vexthor interrupted. "These cannot be the same humans. There must be some mistake." But even as he spoke, a cold feeling of dread began to settle in the pit of his stomach. The Empire had ignored the humans for too long, assuming they posed no threat. Could they have made such a grave miscalculation? As if in answer to his unspoken question, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. The holographic display flickered, showing new information pouring in from across the Empire. "Multiple breaches in our outer defenses. A technician shouted. Unknown ships appearing in Imperial space. The Council watched in horror as reports flooded in from a dozen worlds. The human fleet hadn't just been approaching. It had arrived, striking simultaneously across the Empire with terrifying precision. Emperor Vexthor's laughter died in his throat. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Empire faced a threat it might not be able to overcome, and it had come from the most unexpected of sources. The age of imperial arrogance was over. The war for survival had begun. Light years away from the panicking Galactic Empire, the massive human fleet moved silently through the void of space. At its center, the flagship Terran Hope dwarfed all other vessels around it. Its sleek, dark hull absorbed nearby starlight, making it seem like a moving piece of the night sky. On the bridge of the Terran Hope, Admiral Sarah Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, studying the holographic display before her. The 3D map showed the positions of every ship in the human fleet, over 2,000 vessels strong. Status report, Chen commanded, her voice firm but calm. A young officer stepped forward, his uniform crisp and new. All ships report ready, Admiral. Weapons are primed, shields at maximum. We await your order. Chen nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. It had been a long journey to this moment. Not just the months spent traveling across the galaxy, but the decades of preparation that came before. 50 years ago, when the Galactic Empire first discovered Earth, humanity had been woefully unprepared. The Empire's scouts had laughed at their primitive technology, deeming the human race unworthy of even being conquered. That day of humiliation had become the spark that ignited humanity's greatest endeavor. In secret, away from the prying eyes of imperial spies, humans had poured every resource into advancing their technology. They reverse-engineered scraps left behind by careless alien visitors. They pushed the boundaries of physics, unlocking the secrets of faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation. But most importantly, they prepared for war. Admiral, a gruff voice called out. Chen turned to see General Marcus Blackwood approaching. The old soldier's face was a map of scars, each telling a story of the grueling training regimen he had designed for Earth's new Space Force. The troops are ready, Blackwood reported. Every man and woman knows their duty. They're eager to show the Empire what humanity is truly capable of. Chen nodded. And the new weapon systems. A gleam appeared in Blackwood's eye. Oh, they're going to work beautifully. The eggheads down in R&D have outdone themselves this time. As if on cue, Dr. Yuki Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm system. Admiral, General, you might want to come down to the lab. We've just finished the final calibrations on the Nexus cannon. Minutes later, Chen and Blackwood stood in a cavernous laboratory deep within the Terran Hope. Before them loomed a massive device that looked like a cross between a particle accelerator and a naval cannon. Dr. Tanaka, a small woman with wild hair and thick glasses, practically bounced with excitement as she explained. The Nexus cannon creates a localized singularity, a tiny black hole, and launches it at the target. Upon impact, it will briefly expand, consuming everything within a 10-kilometer radius before collapsing in on itself. Blackwood whistled, impressed, and the Empire has nothing that can stop this. Not a chance, Tanaka grinned. They don't even know this kind of technology is possible. As they made their way back to the bridge, Chen's mind raced with the possibilities. The Nexus cannon was just one of many secret weapons humanity had developed. Each ship in the fleet carried technology that would seem like magic to the Empire. But Chen knew that technology alone wouldn't win this war. It was the human spirit, the unbreakable will to survive and thrive against all odds, that would make the difference. Back on the bridge, Chen took one last look at the holographic display. Each point of light represented not just a ship, but the hopes and dreams of every human back on Earth. They had one chance to strike at the heart of the Empire, to shatter its arrogance and secure humanity's place among the stars. Send the signal, Chen ordered, her voice steady. All ships prepare for Phase 1 of Operation Cosmic Dawn. Throughout the fleet, crews sprang into action. Engines hummed to life, weapons systems powered up, and soldiers strapped themselves into drop pods. The moment they had trained for was finally here. As the fleet began to move, Chen allowed herself a moment of reflection. The Empire had dismissed humanity as weak, as unworthy. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Initiate jump sequence, Chen commanded. Space itself seemed to bend around the human fleet. In a flash of light that outshone nearby stars, 2,000 ships vanished, hurtling towards their targets across the Empire. The battle for humanity's future had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial border outpost on Zeta 9 was considered an easy assignment. Located on the outer edges of the Galactic Empire, it rarely saw any action. Most days, the alien soldiers stationed there spent their time playing hologames or napping at their posts. Commander Grex, a hulking reptilian with blue scales, was in the middle of his third nap of the day when the alarms began blaring. He fell out of his chair, his forearms flailing as he tried to stand up. "What in the Emperor's name is going on?" he roared, stomping towards the control room. A young officer, his antennae twitching nervously, pointed at the main screen. "Sir, we've detected multiple unknown vessels entering the system." Grex squinted at the display. Dozens of ships were appearing out of nowhere, their designs unlike anything he had seen before. His blood ran cold as he realized what was happening. "It's an invasion," he whispered. Then, louder, "Sound the alert. Contact Imperial Command immediately." But before the officer could carry out the order, the entire outpost shook violently. The lights flickered, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Outside, the human fleet had begun its attack. The Terran Hope hung in low orbit, its massive form casting a shadow over the outpost. Smaller ships swarmed around it, raining down energy beams and missiles. On the bridge of the Terran Hope, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold. "Status report," she commanded. "Imperial defenses are crumbling, Admiral." A tactical officer responded. "Their shields are no match for our weapons. We've taken out their long-range communications array." Chen nodded, satisfied. "Prepare the ground teams. I want that outpost secured in the next 30 minutes. In the Terran Hope's launch bay, General Blackwood addressed the troops. Rows of soldiers in sleek, powered armor stood at attention, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. "Today, we make history," Blackwood's voice boomed. "You are the first humans to set foot on an Imperial world as conquerors, not as slaves or curiosities. Show them what humanity is capable of." A cheer went up from the assembled soldiers. They filed into dropships, ready to descend to the planet's surface. Back in the outpost, chaos reigned. Commander Grex tried desperately to organize a defense, but his troops were panicking. Many had never seen real combat before. "Stand and fight, you cowards," Grex shouted, firing his plasma rifle at the ceiling. "We are Imperial soldiers. We do not retreat." A massive explosion rocked the building. Through the smoke and debris, Grex saw figures emerging. They walked on two legs, like many species in the galaxy, but their armor was like nothing he had ever seen. It seemed to absorb the light around it, making the soldiers look like walking shadows. One of the human soldiers stepped forward, the armor's servos whirring softly. The helmet retracted, revealing the face of a young woman with dark skin and fierce eyes. "I am Lieutenant Maria Cortez of the Earth Defense Force," she announced, her voice amplified by her suit's speakers. "Your outpost is now under human control. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly." Grex snarled, raising his weapon. "Filthy humans, will never surrender." His words were cut short as Cortez moved with inhuman speed. In a blink, she crossed the room and disarmed Grex, tossing him to the ground with ease. "Anyone else want to be a hero?" Cortez asked, looking around the room. The remaining Imperial soldiers quickly dropped their weapons. Within 20 minutes, the entire outpost was secure. Human soldiers efficiently rounded up prisoners and began accessing the Imperial computer systems. On the Terran Hope, Admiral Chen received the news with a grim smile. "Excellent work," she told Cortez over the comm. "What's the status of the Imperial database?" "We're in, Admiral," Cortez replied. "Downloading now. You're not going to believe some of the stuff we're finding. Looks like the Empire's been keeping a lot of secrets." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Copy all of it. This information could be crucial for the next phases of our attack." As the data streamed in, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The first battle had been won, and won decisively. The Galactic Empire had been caught completely off guard. But she knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the Empire realized the true extent of the human threat. The element of surprise wouldn't last forever. "Prepare for Phase 2, Chen ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." As the Terran Hope and its fleet prepared to jump to their next target, the news of the attack began to spread across Imperial space. The age of human subjugation was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Emperor Vexthor paced nervously in the grand war room of the Imperial Palace. Holographic displays flickered all around him, each one bringing more bad news. Reports of human attacks flooded in from across the galaxy, painting a picture of chaos and defeat. "This is impossible," Vexthor hissed, his 7 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. How could those primitive apes have advanced so quickly? General Kraz stood nearby, his exoskeleton clicking as he shifted uncomfortably. "Your Majesty, I fear we have gravely underestimated the humans." A new alert blared, and a hologram of Admiral Zix appeared. The Admiral's tentacles were writhing in agitation. "Emperor, we've lost contact with the Krell sector. The humans, they've taken out our main shipyards." Vexthor's scaled skin paled. The Krell sector was home to some of the Empire's most important military installations. Its loss was a devastating blow. "Call an emergency meeting of the High Council," Vexthor ordered. "We must respond to this threat immediately." Within the hour, the most powerful beings in the galaxy had gathered. The council chamber was filled with a cacophony of worried voices and angry shouts. "Silence," Vexthor roared, bringing the room to order. "We face the greatest threat to our empire in 10,000 years. I want solutions, not excuses." Counselor Sisith slithered forward, his forked tongue flicking nervously. "Your Majesty, our initial analysis of the human technology is troubling. They appear to have weapons that can create localized singularities." A collective gasp went through the room. Creating black holes as weapons was thought to be impossible. "How?" demanded Vexthor. "How did they achieve this?" "We're not sure," admitted Sisith. "But that's not all. Their ships can somehow bend spacetime, allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Our sensors can't track them." As the council debated frantically, a young aide burst into the room. "Your Majesty, we've intercepted a human transmission. I think you need to see this." The central hologram flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Sarah Chen. Her expression was stern, her eyes burning with determination. "To the leaders of the Galactic Empire," Chen began, her voice echoing through the chamber. "For too long, you have dismissed humanity as weak and unworthy. You left us alone, thinking we posed no threat. That was your first mistake." The Emperor and his council watched in stunned silence as Chen continued. "We have spent the last 50 years preparing for this day. Every world you thought too primitive to conquer, every species you deemed unworthy of your attention, we have united them under the banner of the Human Alliance. Your empire of oppression ends today." Vexthor's hands clenched into fists. "This is madness. We'll crush them like the insects they are." But Chen wasn't finished. "We offer you one chance to surrender. Relinquish your hold on the occupied worlds, dismantle your military, and face trial for your crimes against sentient beings. You have 24 standard hours to comply." The transmission cut off, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. General Kraz was the first to speak. Your Majesty, we must consider our options carefully. The humans have already demonstrated. No, Vex Thor shouted, slamming his fist on the table. We will not bow to these upstart apes. Ready the Grand Fleet. We will meet this human alliance and crush them once and for all. As the council scrambled to carry out the Emperor's orders, Vex Thor stared out at the stars. For the first time in his long life, he felt a flicker of doubt. Had they truly underestimated humanity so badly? Across the Empire, panic spread like wildfire. Worlds that had known only imperial rule for millennia suddenly faced an uncertain future. Some prepared for war, while others whispered of rebellion, seeing the humans as potential liberators. On the fringes of imperial space, other races watched the unfolding conflict with growing interest. The Galactic Empire had stood unchallenged for so long that many had thought it invincible. Now, a species that the Empire had dismissed as insignificant was bringing it to its knees. As both sides prepared for the coming battle, the galaxy held its breath. The next 24 hours would determine the fate of countless worlds and billions of lives. The age of imperial rule was coming to an end, one way or another. And at the center of it all was humanity, ready to prove that they were no longer the primitive apes the Empire had once mocked. They were here to reshape the galaxy, and nothing would stand in their way. The vast expanse of space around the planet Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. Thousands of ships from both the Galactic Empire and the Human Alliance faced each other in a tense standoff. This was to be the battlefield where the fate of the galaxy would be decided. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Terran Hope, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The human fleet, while impressive, was outnumbered by the Empire's forces. Status report, Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. All ships report ready, Admiral, her second-in-command replied. The Nexus cannons are charged and awaiting your order. Chen nodded, then opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Chen. The Empire has rejected our offer of surrender. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that has suffered under Imperial rule. Remember your training, trust in your technology, and show them what humanity is capable of. Good luck, and Godspeed. As she finished speaking, a massive Imperial dreadnought appeared at the head of the enemy fleet. Its size dwarfed even the largest human ships. On board the Imperial flagship, Emperor Vex Thor sneered at the human fleet. Look at their pitiful numbers, he scoffed to General Kraz. This battle will be over before it begins. Kraz wasn't so sure, but he knew better than to contradict the Emperor. As you say, Your Majesty, shall we begin the attack? Vex Thor's 7 eyes gleamed with anticipation. Yes. Wipe them out. All of them. The space between the fleets lit up as thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across the void. The human ships, faster and more maneuverable than their Imperial counterparts, danced through the barrage, returning fire with pinpoint accuracy. On the Terran Hope, Chen watched as the first wave of Imperial ships fell to human weapons. But more kept coming. Now, she ordered, activate the Nexus cannons. Across the human fleet, massive cannons powered up. They fired in unison, sending what looked like small black spheres towards the Imperial Armada. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, entire sections of the Imperial fleet began to disappear. Tiny, short-lived black holes consumed ships, leaving nothing but scattered debris in their wake. On the Imperial flagship, panic set in. What sorcery is this? Vex Thor screamed, watching helplessly as his fleet was decimated. General Kraz stared in disbelief. It's impossible. They're creating localized singularities. Our shields are useless against them. But the Empire wasn't defeated yet. Their sheer numbers allowed them to push forward. And soon the human fleet found itself surrounded. Admiral, one of Chen's officers called out, we're taking heavy losses in sectors 3 and 4. Chen gritted her teeth. They had known this would be a tough fight, But the Empire's resilience was impressive. It was time for their secret weapon. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Bring in our allies." Suddenly, new wormholes opened up all around the battlefield. Ships of all shapes and sizes poured through, the combined fleets of every race that had joined the human alliance. There were the crystalline ships of the Silicon Collective, a race the Empire had deemed too primitive to conquer. The organic vessels of the Zarn Hive, who had suffered under Imperial rule for centuries, and dozens more, each with their own reasons to fight against the Empire. Emperor Vexthor watched in horror as his advantage in numbers evaporated. This is impossible," he sputtered. "How could the humans have united all these races?" On the Terran Hope, Chen allowed herself a small smile. All ships pressed the attack. "Today, we end the tyranny of the Galactic Empire once and for all." The battle raged on, the combined forces of the human alliance slowly but surely pushing back the Imperial fleet. The Nexus cannons continued to tear holes in the enemy lines, while the diverse technologies of the Alliance overwhelmed the Empire's defenses. As the Imperial flagship found itself surrounded, Vexthor finally realized the truth. The humans hadn't just advanced technologically. They had done what the Empire never could. They had brought unity to a fractured galaxy. With their coalition of former enemies and overlooked species, humanity had reshaped the balance of power. The age of the Galactic Empire was ending, and a new era was about to begin. As Chen prepared to lead the final assault on the Imperial flagship, she knew that the real challenge was yet to come. Winning the war was just the first step. Building a lasting peace would be the true test of humanity's place in the galaxy. The once mighty Imperial flagship drifted helplessly in space, its engines destroyed and weapons systems offline. Inside, Emperor Vexthor stumbled through smoke-filled corridors, his royal robes tattered and burned. The ship shuddered as another explosion rocked its hull. "Your Majesty," General Kraz called out, his exoskeleton cracked and leaking fluid. "We must get you to an escape pod." Vexthor's 7 eyes blinked rapidly, trying to process the unthinkable. His invincible empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, was crumbling around him. "How?" he muttered. "How could this happen?" Before Kraz could answer, the bulkhead in front of them exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a squad of human soldiers in their shadowy armor. At their head was Lieutenant Maria Cortez, her helmet retracting to reveal a grim smile. "Emperor Vexthor," she announced, her voice amplified by her suit's speakers, "in the name of the human alliance and all the peoples you've oppressed, you're under arrest." Vexthor snarled, reaching for a hidden weapon, but Cortez was faster. In a blink, she had the Emperor pinned to the ground, energy cuffs securing his 4 arms. "It's over," she said simply. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Terran Hope, Admiral Sarah Chen watched as the last pockets of Imperial resistance were mopped up. The combined fleets of the human alliance surrounded the remains of the once mighty Armada. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender signals from over 80% of the remaining Imperial ships." Chen nodded, a mix of relief and wariness washing over her. "Accept their surrender. Inform all Allied ships to cease fire unless fired upon." As the human and Allied fleets secured their victory, Chen opened a channel to the entire alliance. "This is Admiral Chen. The Imperial flagship has fallen, and Emperor Vexthor is in custody. The war is over. We've won." Cheers erupted across every ship in the alliance. Races that had been bitter enemies just months ago now celebrated together, united in their victory over tyranny. But Chen knew the real work was just beginning. "All ship captains and Allied leaders, prepare for an emergency council. We need to discuss our next steps immediately." Hours later, Chen found herself in a hastily prepared conference room on Nexus Prime. Around her sat or floated representatives from dozens of alien races, all part of the human alliance. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. "Friends, allies," Chen began, "our victory today marks the end of the Galactic Empire's reign of terror. But now we face an even greater challenge: building a lasting peace. Murmurs rippled through the assembled leaders. An elder of the Silicon Collective spoke up, its crystalline form shimmering. The power vacuum left by the Empire's fall could lead to chaos. How do you propose we prevent this? Chen nodded, having anticipated this question. We propose the formation of a galactic federation. Not an empire ruled by one species, but a democratic union where all members have an equal voice. The room erupted in discussion. Some were enthusiastic, others skeptical. A representative of the Zarn Hive buzzed loudly. And who would lead this federation? You humans, perhaps. No, Chen said firmly. We suggest a rotating council with representatives from all member races. Humanity will have no more power than any other species. As the debate raged on, Chen caught sight of Lieutenant Cortez entering the room. She excused herself and went to meet the young officer. Report, Lieutenant, Chen said quietly. Cortez stood at attention. Emperor Vexthor is secure, Admiral. We've also seized the Imperial archives. You won't believe some of the secrets we've uncovered. Chen's eyes narrowed. Anything that could destabilize our new alliance. Potentially, Cortez admitted. There's evidence that the Empire was experimenting with some very dangerous technologies, and there are star maps pointing to unexplored regions of the galaxy it could hold. Well, almost anything. Chen sighed, realizing that their work was far from over. The fall of the Empire had opened up a galaxy of possibilities and potential threats. Thank you, Lieutenant, she said. We'll deal with that soon. For now, let's focus on building this peace. As Chen returned to the debate, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Humanity had proven itself on the battlefield, but now came the true test. Could they lead the galaxy into an era of peace and cooperation? The next few days would be crucial. As news of the Empire's fall spread across the galaxy, countless worlds would be looking to the human alliance for leadership. It was time for humanity to show that they were more than just conquerors. They had reshaped the galaxy through war. Now, they would have to prove they could reshape it through peace. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Galactic Empire. The great capital world of Xerex, once the seat of imperial power, now bustled with activity of a different kind. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled its gleaming spires, all gathered for a historic moment. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the newly established Galactic Federation, Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the podium. Her uniform, once purely military, now bore the symbols of diplomacy. Around her sat delegates from every member race of the Federation, their diversity a testament to the new era of cooperation. Esteemed delegates, Chen began, her voice carrying across the hall. 1 year ago, we stood united against tyranny. Today, we stand united in peace. The Galactic Federation Charter is complete, and with its ratification, we usher in a new age for all sentient beings. Applause rippled through the assembly. Even former imperial worlds, now freed from oppression, had joined the Federation, seeing the benefits of unity and cooperation. As Chen continued her speech, the scene shifted to a holding facility deep beneath the surface of Xerex. In a high-security cell, former Emperor Vexthor sat alone, his once regal form now diminished. A holoscreen showed him the proceedings of the assembly. Fools, he muttered, his 7 eyes blinking in sequence. They'll never maintain order without an iron fist. But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his voice. The cooperation he witnessed defied everything he had believed about the nature of galactic politics. Back in the assembly hall, Chen was concluding her speech. But our work is not done. The Empire left scars that will take generations to heal. And the mysteries uncovered in the Imperial archives suggest that there may be greater challenges awaiting us in the unexplored regions of our galaxy. Murmurs of concern rippled through the audience. Chen raised her hand for silence. But we will face these challenges as we have faced all others, together. The human alliance has been dissolved, replaced by the greater unity of the Galactic Federation. No longer will humanity stand alone. We are all one people now, united in our quest for peace, knowledge, and prosperity. As the assembly erupted in cheers, the scene shifted again, this time to a secret facility on Earth. Here, Lieutenant Maria Cortez, now promoted to captain, stood before a mysterious artifact recovered from the deepest vaults of the Imperial Archives. "Dr. Tanaka," Cortez said to the scientist beside her, "what do you make of it?" Yuki Tanaka adjusted her glasses, staring at the swirling, otherworldly patterns on the artifact's surface. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen, Captain. The energy readings are off the charts. And those star charts we found with it, they point to regions of space that shouldn't exist." Cortez nodded grimly. "And the Empire was afraid of it. That's why they hid it away." "The question is," Tanaka mused, "do we tell the Federation about this?" Before Cortez could answer, an alarm blared. The artifact began to glow, its patterns shifting faster. "It's activating," Tanaka shouted over the noise. "But we haven't done anything." As they watched in shock, a beam of light shot from the artifact, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy. But it wasn't their galaxy. Strange constellations and unknown celestial bodies filled the projection. "My God," Cortez breathed. "It's a map too. Somewhere else. Another galaxy." The implications were staggering. As the two women stared at the projection, they realized that the fall of the Empire and the rise of the Federation might have been just the beginning of humanity's journey. Meanwhile, in the assembly hall on Zyrex, the ratification ceremony was concluding. As representatives from each world stepped forward to sign the charter, a sense of hope filled the air. The galaxy was entering a new age of exploration, cooperation, and discovery. Admiral Chen watched the proceedings with a mixture of pride and apprehension. They had achieved so much, but she knew that greater challenges lay ahead. The true test of the Federation was yet to come. As the final signature was added to the charter, Chen's comm unit buzzed. It was a message from Earth, marked urgent. Her eyes widened as she read its contents. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to become a much bigger place. And humanity, along with its new allies, would be at the forefront of this new adventure. As cheers echoed through the assembly hall, celebrating the birth of the Galactic Federation, Chen allowed herself a small smile. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, ancient forces stirred, awaiting the arrival of this new united galaxy.